What's your idea?
Doesn't matter. We're recording now, so we'll just
you're
cut
going
it
to
out.
edit this out anyway. What are we calling ourselves?
Open Source Cowboys.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first in our series, live podcast, fireside, whatever we want to call it. We're the Open Source Cowboys, two guys from Texas who somehow ended up in Cardano and open source and everything. That's pretty much the backstory. The intent of what we're doing here is we're trying to do this podcast series to make everyone understand what is Intersect, what is Cardano, what is blockchain, open source, how do they all marry together, and how does it tell one big happy story at the end of it. Y'all might know me already. I've kind of been around the block. My name's Christian, head of the open source office, and
I'm Tex. I'm the Open Source Program Manager, and that is here at Intersect.
Yeah, this is where we all intersect. Whoa, I'm so funny. But yeah, we just wanted to start this episode off. Essentially, the format, Tex is pretty new to this game and everything. I wouldn't call myself a subject matter expert, but I just want to do this as a journey of how he came to understand all of this, and I think it's relevant to our audience in general.
Absolutely.
So, we might as well start off. So, Tex, with your journey so far, it's not even been, 90 days?
Not even.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. What is your take so far? Like, how have you come to this position? How did you interact with Cardano? Give your basic understanding before we get into the deep of it.
Well, what I would say is pretty much just like anybody should, put yourself out there, right? If you don't advertise what your skills are, if you don't put it out there, hey, this is what I can do, nobody's going to know to pick you up, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things I've noticed as far as the Cardano community, or even if you just look at the technology community, is if you don't advertise what you can do, what your skills are, what your experience is in general, it's going to be a very long, hard, trialsome road. And realistically, you won't get anywhere, or you may not get anywhere, right, until you do so. So that's definitely something that that you need to exercise. So for myself, Christian and I have actually been great personal friends for a good many years. But one of the benefits that we have is that we are able to maintain a professional relationship just the same as our personal relationship, and really draw a line between those two. So yes, does he know more about me personally? Absolutely. But what have I made an effort to do is constantly keep him in the loop of where I'm at professionally, what I've been skilled in, what I've stayed educated on, and where I want to go as well. I think that's been pretty important and instrumental in this process.
Yeah, well, and I think we can testify to it, and the community can kind of see it with the open source side of things at Intersect, is that we're marching. It was me and a committee since August last year, and then I needed someone who could keep up with the speed, and I know you have that ability. And then we're going to bring on some developer advocates, and come the AMM, open up more opportunities and stuff.
AMM?
So, yeah, annual members meeting.
Oh.
October, I think it's the 11th. Yeah. TBD?
10th? Yeah,
something
9th,
like that.
10th, 11th,
we know it's October.
That is this year, 2024. It's going to be in Tokyo.
Yeah. Big fun sales. There will be updates from us there, so stay tuned for that. But going back to it, Tex, based on your raw experience, what is Cardano? What is Intersect?
Absolutely. Well, let's tackle that first question, right? What is Cardano? Because Cardano is larger than Intersect. So Cardano is a blockchain, right? It's Web3, and it's a cryptocurrency, right? Categorized by ADA, the token. Cardano as a blockchain is academically peer-reviewed, right? It's one of the most up-to-date blockchains, and by that fact, most reliable as well.
Yeah. It is, for sure.
So we'll take that across to Intersect. What's Intersect, and what are we doing, or how are we helping or participating in this space, right? So Intersect, we're a members-based organization, and we are here to facilitate the future development of Cardano, right? So we are going to be that, I don't know, what would you call that? The steering party that says, hey, this is what Cardano needs, or this is a project that would benefit and further prove utility with Cardano, and here's how we get that implemented, or here's how you as a member of the community get involved to have your part, your stake in Cardano, more so than just holding ADA.
Yeah, it's not far from the truth. Cardano's, they do joke and call it the ghost chain just because it's been around forever, but the tech's solid. Some people rather build here than other chains. And then Intersect's going to be that coordinating body or the information broker, for lack of a better word, for the
Absolutely.
ecosystem. But since we're talking about Cardano, what other get in the weeds of it do you understand? Like, why is it different from other chains? Why would you want to come to it?
Well, I think one of the biggest attributes, right, or the biggest pieces that attracts you to Cardano, or attracts the community to Cardano, is the decentralized nature, right? The open source that we are actually building. In open source and blockchain, I'm not going to say that it's a brand new concept, but it can definitely be one that's hard to achieve, right? And the only reason that it's hard to achieve is really the amount of effort that you may put into it. But having it as open source, I mean, it opens you up to more contribution, and opens you, or rather, it opens the blockchain to less of a question as to, hey, does this actually work, or is this all just one person trying to put this out there and say, yes, I feel this is productive. Um, so that decentralized aspect of what we're doing here with open source and building Cardano in that way, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, they parallel each other, right? I mean, open source is about being open to everyone, and especially Cardano, since it is a permissionless chain. You don't need permission to up and run stuff, just like in open source, you don't need permission to take someone's code and integrate it.
That's exactly correct.
So I think them complementing each other kind of is the definition of open source. But with that being said, what are your intentions? Be trying to make Cardano open source. Like, how are you being directly involved? Just to give people more of a into your day and day.
Absolutely,
Right
absolutely. So serving as open source program manager, there's a lot of different things that I actually find myself involved in. So purely on the open source side, we have an open source committee. So this is professionals and community members all across who are uh, attached to Cardano for their different reasons, right? They may just have an ADA stake, or they may have actually been in open source for anywhere from a couple of years to a number of decades. So what I am is a secretary for the open source committee, and so I help make sure that all of these parties are brought together, and that their contributions to our committee meetings are brought forth not only as opinions, but also relevant in our work. Uh, Beyond that, on the Intersect side of things, we have working groups and special interest groups, and of course we have the committee. Our committee, the open source committee, is one of 7. So on the back end here, I'm helping to support and make sure that our communities committees, excuse me, are all functioning as they should, right, as intended, that they are and remain open to the community, so that they can come in and see what's going on, and realistically where they may be able to have a participation stake in the development of Cardano. And really, I've just found at least as of right now, getting quite a bit more focused in those working groups and those interest groups, because there are some really, really good ideas that come out of that, honestly. And more so than ideas, it's actually proven work, right? That's developing policies, procedures, and you expand that to our product or our technical working groups, and those are our new core developers, right? So Cardano, what I've learned, it came from IOHK. That's where the main development was for the last number of years, probably about 5 to 7 years, as it came through the various different eras of maturity, right,
Mm-hmm.
to being truly open source. And now that we're there, we're implementing governance through the Voltaire era, and so our technical working groups are those that are doing that legwork. So it's important to keep them protected, but to also have the general working groups, the general interest groups, bring in those new ideas to further strengthen that development.
Well, and I want to go back to a point you talked about when you're talking about the open source committee. So when people think Cardano, it's already a big enough animal to understand. And then you have all the founding entities and their parts that they played. And then you have the new one, Intersect. And the structure within Intersect itself is already confusing. I mean, imagine trying to even understand Linux and Hyperledger being a
Man,
new person, and then or blockchains. So, high level summary for the dummies,
sure.
what is intersect structure, so that if you can briefly gloss over that.
Well, absolutely. That's a great question, right? Intersect has definitely grown, especially over the last couple of months. Maybe not as monstrous as Hyperledger and Linux Foundation, but quite massive enough that it's really important to understand.
Yeah, I think we're almost
Um,
1,600 members, give or take. So
yeah, I thought, well, definitely, yeah, over 1,500, and we may even be encroaching upon the 2,000 member mark. But as that said, there's a governing board. And this is designed, was designed as members of the community or those that are willing to put down a large stake in the not only Intersect itself, but the development of Cardano. Below that, you have your community advisory board, and that is the go through between the governing board and the Intersect steering committees. Now, again, the open source committee is one of 7 steering committees that we have. And with those steering committees, those steer the future development of Cardano from each different aspect. So there's the open source, there's the technical steering committee, there is the membership and community committee, right? There's a few others that we can get to at a later point. But at least from those first 3, we have the open source, which is building Cardano to be open source. We have the technical steering, which is defining, hey, what are the technical requirements that we need for this development to be effective. Membership and community is how does our community how does being a member of Intersect actually get you involved in this core development?
well, and going back to that key adjective that kept being used, steering.
Steering, exactly. So it is treated as oversight, right? But it's still important to have, again, experienced members of the community on those on the steering committees here, so that we're steered in the appropriate direction, but uh, more so the direction that the community wants, right? We don't want this to be, hey, we're just steered in the direction of whatever XYZ professional wants to see on Cardano. No, it's designed to actually implement what the community is asking for. And if you actually go back to our most recent video, you can see a breakthrough of why open source, right? And where the open source committee actually went through and got that community feedback. They told us that, hey, we weren't mature, right? We weren't open. It was hard to find things, and so
Yeah, open
that's
source
where we're
is
getting
more
that
than GitHub.
viewpoint. That is definitely true. Definitely true. Well, I'll focus it back to the point here, right? We wanted the structure, so let me close that out just real quick. Beyond the steering committees, beneath that we have the Intersect executive team, and below that is the different departments at Intersect, as far as marketing, membership, our strategy teams, our technical operations, even our open source department, right? Christian and I, and our various partners that are coalesced, right?
Yeah. Well, how would
Absolutely.
you say the departments complement the community functions?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great question. So each of the departments funnel directly into a committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, see, there's your CYA. Make sure that the committees have departments that are responsible to them,
Mhm.
and vice versa.
Absolutely. What you get out of that is that you have the functional teams that intersect who do a lot of that administrative work, if you will, right? And then that funnels back into the committee for, based on however they choose to administer, either approval or ratification. And that, of course, follows through to, again, development, right? So whether that's a technical development or a development of the community or, um, a development of community input, right? So there's the want to get the community input, community involvement, and then also community input. So um, there's 2 different angles that way, and that's why there's 2 different committees. One that I didn't mention earlier, the civics committee, right? So that is the civics committee is where they're going to have their opportunity to have input. I believe they're working on our constitution right now, right? The Cardano Constitution. Um, and so that's going to define exactly what the community has said. Hey, this is how Cardano should be governed from this perspective. And then the membership and committee, MCC is the shorthand on that. That's directing community involvement, and that's actually really where we see those working groups and special interest groups that you referred to. They don't all fall under the MCC, right? Different committees actually will pick up various working groups or special interest groups as part of that further development, and that's where the community comes in, right? Just being out there in the Cardano or in the blockchain community, you can come be a part of a special interest group. If you want to step that up, you got to become a member of Intersect, right? Now, there's a couple of different memberships. You can be an associate member, and you can kind of just have your look around. You can definitely be a part of an interest group. You can be even a viewer, if you will, of a working group. But beyond that, once you want to start participating, and let's say you're getting picked up by a committee, that's when you're going to need to step up to be a founding member. That's that next tier, that next level. Now, if you want to be a founding member by yourself, that's perfectly okay. Right now, it's just $10. $10 US.
I believe so. Yeah. $10 gets you a whole year.
Yeah. And if you're an organization, right? If you're a project and you want to get your whole team on there, I think that's just $1,000 right now, right?
Yep. And compared to other foundations, that's 1/5 the price. Just to note that there.
So basically, we've as far as Intersect overall, we've left the door wide open, right? We want the community to be here. We want the community to be involved, and let's push that development for sure.
Well, I'm glad you covered that. We went from trying to, if you can help me try to remember all the topics we covered, we got what is Cardano, what is Intersect,
Sure.
the structure, your background, and basically your journey. I guess the next piece to this is kind of delving into all the different committees and the areas that they touch. Way too much for this episode, that's for sure. Well, and I don't have the bandwidth mentally.
Well, let's definitely encourage everyone. Let's comment, let's subscribe. And in those comments, what we definitely want to hear is, hey, tell us what part of this you want to hear more about. Tell us what part of this was confusing for you. And, look out for more, because we are going to bring on more team members, right? We're going to get some interviews going for everyone. Hey, what else is going on inside of Intersect? Who is this membership and community committee we talked about? Who's on civics, who's working on the technical side of things, and how is Intersect actually driving all of that work? So there's plenty more to come. And
just to add to that, we have 2 videos live. The purpose of the channel, and then why open source. That kind of ties in everything on the open source office and the committee. We can do a follow-up to that if people want it. But essentially everything open source clarified. We'll do a meet the team approach, so people actually know all these faces and the heads of all these Intersect departments. We'll also do expert interviews, Cardano core tech stack, get people to understand step-by-step how you run node, etc. All those fun things and projects you're not even aware of. But we can't actually upload this unless we do a cheesy YouTuber outro. Like a like and subscribe thing that makes us feel desperate.
I already told them like, comment, subscribe. We want to tell them again?
But you got to do a cheesy way, because that's how you antagonize people. That's how it makes me feel like.
Well, I've got just the thing for you, right?
Okay.
And I don't know that we mentioned this here, but we are the open source cowboys, not just at Intersect, but all over. So if you don't like, if you don't comment, if you don't subscribe, we're going to keep posting this content. We're going to get out there and we're going to wrangle you in until you do like, comment, subscribe. And don't forget to share this with others as well.
Remember, if you follow us, it's as easy as shooting fish in a barrel. That'll be my cheesy outro.